And oh, cool, we're live. So like, can just be literally casual question and answer. And I know and I'll just tweet out the link right now, but really the whole point is, I think a lot of times I'll do a live stream, but people don't have, a lot of times people want to have like a first time user or first time contributor's perspective and have the questions that you might ask answered through like this session. So I think this should be cool. Let's find the link.
I'm excited.
Okay. Tweet. Hey, live stream time. Tonight is Hangouts on Air with first time. Alan Chavez, okay. JavaScript, OSS, okay.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining.
Sean, no worries. I just had to get my audio setup going here.
No problem at all.
Looks like we're live. That's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I might, if somebody else wants to like jump in, I'll just shoot it out. But I think this is going to be really cool because it's just a very candid question answer, and then me diving through the code. Tonight, cool.
Awesome.
All right. So I just tweeted it. Let's see how this goes. I don't really have that many followers, but yeah. So why don't you guys just introduce yourself? And then I'll go last. But then people know who you are. You can just say what you do and what you experience with Webpack.
Sure, Alan, why don't you go and shoot us off, mate?
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
Oh, okay, awesome. So, well, my name is Alan, and full-time developer, software engineer. I've been working a lot with Webpack recently. It's been interesting. At first, it was very daunting to really understand what it was, what it did, how it worked. It was a little, I don't want to say like out of date, but sometimes it was a little inconsistent of what the actual plugin was doing. So, but the project was calling to using like Webpack, so we figured it out and we set it up. And once it was set up, and that I want to learn more about Webpack. How can I do more plugins? How can I do actual on top of Webpack? I think there's a lot of future, so that's why I reached out to you, and that's why I'm here.
Nice. Well, the good thing is that, and for the record, there's no problem with bashing Webpack or expressing your frustrations. I think we've all been in this place before. I had to learn Webpack for the first time 7 months ago, so I've been there. So yeah, that's just for the record. Don't have to worry. We like candid feedback because it's that kind of stuff that we really take to heart. So, but all right, and who's our next guest?
Awesome. So I'm Thomas, and I've recently been working with a software team building out a new product called Records. Oh, there's my webcam. There's my webcam. That's what it is.
For the win.
Let's do that. We're doing some comedic relief here. I'll go ahead and shoot this off here. See my face? Awesome. Okay.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll do that for now, and we'll run back in later. Anyway. So I've been working with a really cool team at Records Music, and they actually introduced me as their technical lead to Webpack, building out their new app, that kind of migrating from some legacy code over to a new, more shiny framework. And well, I had to just jump into it, and I should have a lot of questions. sure hope that the member of the core team has a lot of answers, and we'll go from there.
I'll do my best. I'll admit that I don't know every inner workings of the code base, but that's what these kind of things are for, because not only we'll learn together, but
yeah, no,
we'll go through different parts.
Sure. Realistically, one of the main concerns with Webpack was scalability, with deploying a lot of nodes, in a real-time production environment. And what I've noticed so far is that just really quick, really easy configuration objects and files just allow myself and my team to get that done instantaneously. So that's a big plus there.
Nice.
Really enjoying that feature. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think I'm going to dive into the code. Let's get this. Let's hope I can share it again. No, it doesn't want to. Well, give me 1 second. So, essentially this all started because Alan wanted to, just learn more and figure out ways to contribute. And so that's kind of what I want the theme, to focus on, but then also kind of teach people from the perspective of somebody who wants to be a first-time contributor. And that gives, you the opportunity to want to learn at the same time, but then kind of understand the system from the inside out. So let's see, what do we have here? There we go. We can all see my screen, I assume. There we go. Nice. So we have some code. So I think, the first thing that I'll kind of just do a little quick run through of what I was described to Alan. And then, I wanted to maybe show you guys how to, because our documentation is still poor in the aspect of our plugin API, to learn maybe how to do a custom plugin, and we can kind of brainstorm ideas on how to go from there.
Cool.
All right. So overall, all of Webpack is really 80% of the core library. And, I have the code here checked out, is all plugins. And they're the same plugins that you would use externally in your configuration. So it uses a system called Tappable. And Tappable essentially is kind of like Node's event emitter, except it gives you the ability to actually modify the state of the I guess the callee or whatever is emitting that event. And so it's really just a tiny library, but it's really powerful, especially when, the way that it was architected by the original author, Tobias Koppers, or Sokra on GitHub. So I guess some things to identify, there are 10 total classes. And you're going to see kind of a mix of ES6 and ES5 here because we're constantly, I've been doing just code reviews all the past 4 or 5 days and making changes, but like one file at a time we've been going through. And where's a good one? Yeah, like right here, we're updating them to classes because we now support Node 4.7 as our minimum version. So we would drop support for .12, and we can actually use class and let, barring that we use strict, but still. That's it's a huge win for readability and getting people to kind of lower the barrier of entry. So the 10, I guess, what I like to call tappable instances or classes that extend tappable are from, I guess, in this order, the compiler. And the compiler is essentially what kicks off the entire process. You get the options, and it's going to emit a whole bunch of different events. And so you can always find them by just looking for apply plugins, and then you'll see like a way in which those plugins are applied. So it may be async, it could be synchronous but bail if something happens. It could be like parallel, waterfall. There's a whole different bunch of varieties. So like the easiest way to go in and like say, oh, I wonder what hooks this has. And obviously the first way to find out is if it's an ES5 class, you'll see this kind of pattern, which is kind of like the ES5 way of doing inheritance between classes. So you'll see that, or like an extends tappable. But essentially, if you want to know like what hooks a tappable class has, you can literally just search apply plugins, and that's typically what I do if I'm writing a custom plugin and I want to, because I can't remember them all by heart. So I like just going through and seeing. So like, for example, if we start at the top, now since the compiler has a watching mode, we have some watch specific events. So that's why you see watching here. But so we can see, okay, there's an async plugin called watch run, and it takes a callback. And then there's one that is should emit. So this is essentially, when the process is all done and the compiler has compiled, then we'll get a should emit event that happens, and it also is going to pass the compilation. But yeah, you can go through, and so there's a lot of times this is going to be the easiest way to find out exactly what different events are emitted. And let's see what else. Yeah, there's a whole, and then here's compiler run. So we'll see, you could write a plugin that does something before the compiler actually runs. And it's also asynchronous.
Question.
Yeah.
So what will be a good candidate to like, or what kind of event do you think could happen before the compiler runs? Like what kind of, what does Webpack does before the compiler runs?
Well, we can see, so sometimes when this was authored originally, Tobias, a lot of times these events exist to serve other plugins in the actual core library. And sometimes they don't. So, I mean, the first thing I always do is I actually just look for a before run. And so I just search the code base for that event string. And so like, here's a couple plugins that are implementing it, Node environment. And I think, yeah, here it is. So it looks like in this case, if let's say you wanted, oh, this is a great example. Let's say, so Webpack abstracts the file system away from the core library. And so you could actually do one of two things. You could clear the cache of the file system, or I bet you could even set a new different file system at this point. You can see that this is already happening here inside of this plugin.
Right.
So that would be a reasonable case to use it. Things like kind of setup for your environment before it actually starts to run, you maybe want to do that. And so like if we're in Node, or let's say this is running like, you're running it in a Docker shell and you need to do some other things. Or take a look at some environment variables or add some additional information or state, that would be kind of the place to do it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then, yeah, and so like there's also some additional, let's see, where's another good event? We could go to compilation. So compilation is probably the next like biggest key event that you'll see here. Compilation. And that's another tappable instance that gets passed through. So compilation, and you can tell right away, this is one of those ES6 classes, which is like, yes. Like to me, it's like, oh my God, I can read it. I mean, I'm used to doing it the old way, but this just right away, you can tell. So, we can see that the compiler gets sent to it. And from there, it looks like it's getting all sorts of things. You're getting the input file system, the resolvers, the compiler itself. So, it's linked to the compilation, essentially the compilation. Let's see. Oh, somebody sent me a message saying they can't see the code very well. Can you guys see that now?
All good.
Yeah, looks great.
Is that better? Excellent. Thanks to whoever sent feedback. Oh, nice. Okay. All right, excellent. So there's also like, let's see, any additional properties that you need to set, from options will be set here. But you can see just by looking at kind of the constructor and the properties that are set there, this essentially is going to contain all of the this is your dependency graph, but it's also your abstract representation of the finished product, all the chunks. It's kind of like the glue that glues all the abstractions of, Webpack itself together. And it also has a whole bunch of different events. So, in the same way, we can go apply plugins. And so we see like building a module or some hooks for whether or not a module being built failed or succeeded. Let's see, there's unseal and seal, as well as like optimize. And then there's a whole slew of different event hooks for when specific optimizations are occurring. And so like I said, a lot of these are going to be corresponding to plugins that serve the system itself already. And let's see, which one is really good. Optimize tree.
And those optimized plugins that are essentially serving, back the system that are going to be running inherently, are going to be still those before compilation or during compilation modules.
So this is actually kind of during this is happening during the seal hook, I guess you could say. So like this is a sync or a synchronous hook here. Apply plugin 0.
Sure.
And essentially, so that's basically saying like, if you want to get something done before optimization happens, do it here, because then you can see directly after there's this entire block of optimizations that are going on.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like let's look at one that's where's a good one? Optimize. We'll do optimize modules basic and search for it. Optimize modules basic. Okay, so let's see what plugs into it. Oh, I don't see. Is there one? Maybe this is. Well, this is happening. Or okay. Well, we can take a look at optimize modules. Here we go. So flag dependency usage plugin. So this one's actually really important because this is kind of how tree shaking is marked during Webpack. So I'm just taking a guess by the name of the plugin itself, but it looks pretty obvious that it's trying to see whether or not a dependency is actually used and it's flagged. So as you can see here, it plugs into the compilation event. And when the compilation emits this hook, then it's going to take modules and then process them and optimize them. And then there's some more like convenience functions here. So I mean, overall, let's find a file again. Compilation, not code coverage results. And this process kind of continues, but it goes all the way down to the parser. So there's 3 parts to Webpack, and I'll just annotate it here. It's resolve, transform, and then bundle. So the resolve step, which actually corresponds to the resolve or tappable event, it uses Node's enhanced. It uses Node's resolver system, but then also builds on top of it. And so the first step is you pass it an entry file, and it's literally scanning through every dependency, and it walks that tree. And as non-JS files resolve, so let's say like CSS or .html or an image, it gets sent to your rules or loaders to be transformed so that it can be understood and bundled into JavaScript. So after the transform part, there's actually like a mini one that is the parser evaluates, essentially. Because every loader, essentially in the end, needs to resolve or needs to be transformed to JavaScript or something, or some sort of JavaScript code. So the parser is actually backed by Acorn. And what's happening is that every module, it produces an AST for it. And as you can see here, if I do apply plugins, there is literally a event hook for every type of, I guess you could say, lexical token that is come across and throughout the abstract syntax tree. So really, you could write a plugin that just says, when you come across a specific variable name or function name, or let's say if somebody tries to use eval, which, you know, has all sorts of terrible optimization hits from the V8 engine and other engines, you could actually plug into that. And the reason why that's important is because this entire folder called dependencies is where parser plugins exist. So like Webpack, you know, the beautiful thing is that Webpack can understand CommonJS, AMD, ES6 imports. It can use system import, and you wonder like how can we add those features so quickly, and you know, and easily. And the reason why is because essentially we write parser plugins that evaluate those different statements. And then there's a layer of abstractions, like a dependency subclass and then a dependency block subclass to represent the different parts of that AST, and then how it transforms into the actual code. So like, let's say you use system import and you want to do some lazy loading. What will happen is, or we can just say import. So import parser plugin. So the import plugin will hook in, and then it applies a parser plugin. And that parser plugin is, like I said, listening for a system import or a custom event that comes from an Acorn plugin. But essentially, so that means if we come across import, you know, some lazy module .js .then, you know, module. So this would be how you do some code splitting in Webpack. Return, you know, you could say let foo equals module dot default, and then, you know, you can use your code for it. You know, like foo dot show some modal I don't want up front.
There you go.
Up front. There you go. Yeah. So this, you know, this is how it walks this expression and then kind of abstracts it into a object model that then is replaced and swapped out. And so if you'll see import dependency in the import dependency block. Well, you can see here, this is the actual replacement template for the code itself. So what you see in your code gets transformed into this in your bundles.
Let's see. So this is essentially how polyfills do their magic, right?
Exactly. And that's why you see so many different dependencies, dependency blocks, and dependency parser plugins. You know, that's what this pattern is for. Kind of mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
This was my revelation. You know, when I finally understood how it worked, this was what was so powerful to me. Yeah, so it's as granular as you can hook into every AST, you know, type or token, or you can do just simple, very high-level things like Webpack's running, Webpack finished, Webpack's about to emit assets, so let's add another one, etc. And so there's literally, I don't want to say thousands, but there's you know, hundreds of different hooks that are dynamic and really flexible. So should we create a plugin? Should we try something?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah,
You guys can ask questions, and I'll try to set up maybe a good inside the repo environment to create a plugin.
Yeah, I think the what really is kind of a question in my mind is a polyfill in essence is essentially a mirror of what you're writing within the parser, right? It's like the end returned finished product.
Mm-hmm. Except it's all statically analyzed though. So instead of excuse me, so what it's doing is it will replace the actual usage that you would do, like an AMD define or a system.import, and replace it with something that works in the browser. inside of the Webpack module system.
Sweet. Okay.
So, but yeah, it's like a browser polyfill, I guess you could say.
But in essence, it's like I mean, at its highest level, it's just there's a little switch, essentially how you explained it, and it samples out what you've built out, what you've used, to something that would work and be implemented normally or regularly within a browser.
Yeah, absolutely. And like
Okay.
when some people will criticize us, and rightfully so, will criticize us for jumping on certain features like import, when it's still only in stage 3. But as you can tell, like it is, all we have to do is we can create a new plugin, set deprecation warnings on this one, and then on the next minor sender we can rip it out. And so the impact is very there's a wide surface area for flexibility, and the impact is not too terrible.
Sure, it's very minimal to implement.
Yep. I mean, there are certain things like, the ES6, like the Harmony spec was actually really complicated because it is involved with static analysis, but, smaller things like certain features or lazy loading paradigms, it really makes it possible to do some cool stuff. So I created a new feature branch. Let's see. I'll just probably create a plugin and drop it in place because why not? Let's just, we'll do that.
Cool.
Do you have any questions, Alan?
No, so far I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. Or wait, maybe I should check the chat really quick. I haven't been in the chat yet. Possible to view the code on the main screen. Oh, is it not showing on the main screen, guys? Oh no, they're going to judge me for it. Present to everyone. There we go. Oh, I just went through all of that. That's okay. Guys, I'm sorry, but we're going to create a new plugin right now, and that's what counts. So let's see. I should have been in the chat room. Let's take a look and say hi. Hi, all. Oh my OMG. Let's see. It's okay. There's only 4 people watching, so.
Very good.
Don't judge me, everyone. Oh, hi, all. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to respond to him really quick.
You got 4 fans.
This is my first YouTube live stream by myself. I didn't know I wasn't showing the, what is it? Okay, so I'm showing the code on the screen now. Can you see it? Just to make sure. Can you see it? Nice. Well, you guys haven't missed too much. Hola. Oh yeah, look at the Hispanic representation here.
Yeah, I tweeted the link.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, my main is Hispanic people.
Ah, that's okay. If they can understand, hola. Okay, yeah. So let's make a custom plugin, and we can just kind of experiment with some of the things that we've been, learning. And I'll even show you guys how to debug. My favorite part is being able to actually debug this process. So, should I do it in this source? Yeah, why not? Let's just do it. YOLO. So why don't we just create one? What do you think we should do? Should we get really simple?
What would be like the equivalent of Hello World plugin for Webpack?
Well, we can put Hello World inside every module in a comment. We could try. We'll call it Hello World plugin. Hello World plugin.js. Fun. Okay. So let's see. I think the first thing is use strict, because I'll be definitely writing a class. So, the anatomy is a plugin is 2 things. I guess now it's a class. So class hello world plugin. And then let's see, we'll just add a constructor, even though it's not going to take anything. I just like doing it for good practice. And it implements an apply function. So that's the second rule. So the apply function
So
is
the apply
actually,
is tappable.
Yep. Well, the apply basically allows you to, that's what the tappable class is going to call from your plugin.
Okay.
So we know we'll just start out at the highest level with the compiler because we can always plug in deeper into other different classes.
Quick question. So, sorry if I'm interrupting, but
no, you're fine.
Since every single plugin needs to function in there in order to work, like, so how there isn't like an interface or implements this for you so that you just have to override it.
So you're saying like, why isn't there already an interface to make it easier?
Like World plugin implements below, I have to write and apply functions because otherwise it wouldn't work, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're saying like maybe like an abstraction that makes it easier to not have to remember to use apply?
Yeah, I know it sounds silly, but the question just popped in my mind.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, essentially, I think the reason why is because we need a constructor, first of all, to pass in options into the actual plugin itself. But then I think the reason behind is that there needs to be some sort of function that gets called on the object, or some sort of like connecting callable or callee to actually execute that functionality. But I'm not sure. I mean, I bet there is a way to make it easier and more convenient. I don't see why not. It's a good question, though. It's one to think about, too. See, the cool thing is that, like, once we drop Webpack 2, and we only have 5 or 6 issues left, but they're tough. They're tougher issues regarding like tree shaking and the ES spec and things like that. But once those are done, we're going to do like a total usability rewrite. And I think that's going to be really cool because then we have the opportunity to, to kind of experiment with different interfaces and things like that. So let's see. Yeah, so we have our hook, and I think there's a run. We can always confirm, like, this should maybe be the workflow that you can experiment with, like, define but never use. So like we could jump into the compiler and we can say, okay, well, what kind of hooks are available? Do we have a run hook? Hey, we do. And we know it's async and it'll take a callback. And so if anything errors, we could pass an error object to it, inside of our own functionality, but we're probably not going to. So here is this, and I think, so this function is kind of our action, but essentially there's also callback. So we will call callback at the end of this. Callback. So many linting errors. I know, right? Okay. So let's try this now. We can do, why don't we just do something simple like console.log hello world. This feels fair, right? I feel like this should work. Okay. I'm going to ignore the linting errors right now because it's more specific to, oh, here we go. Module dot exports equals, there we go. Callback, oops, it's being here. Now I know what I'm doing.
Gotcha. And this class Hello World plugin should be extending the tappable
so
module.
If you wanted a plugin to register into it, then yes, it would. So like you could think about it like plugin runner extends tappable. And if you wanted to, like constructor super, and then, you would have your own custom behavior about the life cycle of this plugin runner.
Sure.
But essentially, so like if you wanted to, it would be something like this. I'm just going to duplicate it, but for the purpose of plugin runner, and then it would be like plugin runner dot plugin. Let's just say, hello, for the function. I'm still getting used to arrow functions in this code base. Okay, so that would be something like, let's say, I'll just do it in the constructor as an example, but it would be this dot apply plugins, and it would be called hello.
Right, right.
And if you wanted to pass like the state of it into it, you would just by doing this and then boom. So that would be kind of like if you wanted to implement or use Tappable on its own, you can totally do so and create your own plugin system for your own library. And that's why it's in a separate package. If you didn't know, it's github.com/webpack/tappable.
Found that already. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Yep.
Okay, so we got our apply function. Let's just give this thing a spin. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'm just going to cheat and I'll hook up into the core library itself. And we'll write a test for it. So like we can think about this like we're actually contributing to the library itself. And that'll be kind of cool. So so let's say we want to run this if a certain property on our config exists, or a certain property exists. So like Webpack options apply, that's essentially the purpose of it here. So Webpack options apply, and that's why, you know, we see all these different plugins. We can kind of treat it just like the entry option plugin does. So like, let's just say, we'll import it first or add it. This will be a big PR to convert. So let's see, hello world plugin equals required. There we go. Up a level. Cool. And then let's use it. So we could say this. This would be a good test case. If we set our target to, so this is a big switch case for the option for the target property in your config. Essentially, you know, it could be, there's different sets of plugins designed for these different targets. And the reason is your template is going to change for like async code or code splitting based on node or not or web worker, etc. So like, let's just say if it is node, that makes sense. We want to see the actual console log in our output. So we'll do new hello world plugin, boom. And now what we can do is we can actually write a test for this. And this will be really like contrived test, but why not? We'll just say target config cases node. Let's just add one. Is it a config case? It is. Actually, I'm curious of what this would look like if we just ran. So to run tests, you could do npm test, but I always say let's just do mocha. So get your local mocha and call grep. And we have our tests broken up into these different like pieces. So like some are extremely long, and we have about like 7,000 tests. So it can take 5 minutes. So nobody wants to sit around and wait for that. But we could do, where is it? Config test cases. Oh, stop lying. Is my mouse going to die? Okay.
Oh.
There we go. So we can do config test cases. And as you can see, it is failing every test, but we know it actually works because it's doing an output hello world to the config.
So once again, when does this run? Every single time any other plugin loads, this plugin is tapping onto that?
No, essentially, so, well, our config cases contain a different variety of, let's see if I can show you it. So if we look inside config cases for our tests, we actually have a bunch of different like sub-nested folders that have Webpack configs. And so The purpose of config cases is to basically write tests that cover specific combinations of configuration properties. And so it allows us to say like, oh, I can guarantee that if target is async node and I use code splitting and Uglify.js plugin, and let's say we do some common chunks, it still works. And so it's a way of kind of solidifying specific cases. So if we like look inside of our config test cases, what it does is, and that's how you target it with grep if you guys haven't used Mocha before. Essentially what it does is it goes, hey, look through all the categories and then assign a test object, and then for each test go through, set some default properties for our config in memory, and then call Webpack on it. And so essentially it's just iterating through each of those combinations. And so what we were seeing there are any of the times that there were node was this additional property or function running specifically right here. So now if you were to write this in just like, let's say an external plugin, you know, it wouldn't fail tests. It would just output hello world. But for the sake of not having to cut into a separate repo, and we probably should. We should probably do it, but that was just a decent example. So we can just check out master again.
Sure.
So do we want to do something a little bit more complex?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we're up for it.
Yeah, I think so. Or let's see how the audience is doing. What are they? Hi guys, how's it going? What kind of letter is that?
I think it meant the font.
Yes. Okay, so I'll just chat it. But okay, so it's VS Code. VS Code with material operator theme and operator mono font face or font family.
Very cool. Looks very close to like a chalkboard, blackboard.
Yeah, isn't it? I mean, I really like it. All of the, like, how would I say this? Like any of the italicized things really help point out different pieces that are probably should be, you know, called out to me visually. So I tend to like it. Okay, so
cool.
Why don't we take a dive into maybe an actual repo and write a custom plugin and take what we've learned here. So where do we have something? Vanilla multi. Oh, that's a good one. Cool. Can you guys still see the code on the screen?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay.
I think it's still being presented as well via the small icon on your Hangout.
But it is showing as a ginormous one for everybody. Looks like it. Let's double check with the 5 viewers we got here. Hey, viewers. Can you still see the screen? Just checking.
Yes.
Any questions? Let's see. Mentioned it. Okay. All right, cool. So let's keep going. All right, so I have this kind of repo. So I'm writing this plugin called multi-page Webpack plugin, and essentially the purpose is to, if you've ever used HTML Webpack plugin, you know that it creates like a, you know, an index.html for you, and it generates it for you. But there isn't really like a default out-of-the-box story for like multi-page apps. And so like at work, our architecture is that it's a server-side MVC Laravel app. And,
Cool.
you know, really what we're doing is treating every entry point as its own kind of separate page. And so there's lots of different things it does out of the box. So that's what this repo is for. But let's jump into the config and make this way less close all. Cool. So yeah, I had some different plugins applied and some entry points, etc. A little loader. So here's a cool trick that I think you guys might find really useful for learning how to write a plugin for the first time. Right. You can actually pass a function And this is essentially I guess we could say prototype dot apply. Yep.
Yeah.
That's your apply function. So if we wanted to do the same thing, or wait, is it this? We'll find out. It'll error and tell us. So compiler.plugin, and we can say run. And we can do console.log, hello world. And I think that it did require a callback.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's just see what happens. We'll build it. npm run build. I think I had. Did it fail? Cannot read properly. Oh yeah. So I think it is instead this. It's the this context instead. Stop lying to me. Oh, so maybe it doesn't pass a callback for run. So maybe that's why we're seeing some hello world errors. Cool. Hey,
There we go.
look at that.
Sweet.
Okay, so we could take it a step further. What do you think, guys? And this is for you, so feel free to ask whatever questions you want or how to do anything.
A quick question that I have is just a kind of confirmation. The
Yeah.
callback is specifically for validity for the plugin runner itself, the tappable object.
Yeah, it has two purposes. So one, it is to bubble up errors back to the instance, but anytime that there's a callback, it's going to mean that that plugin executes asynchronously in some way. So the
Gotcha. Okay.
callback basically is, hey, this asynchronous plugin's done. Yeah.
Shit. Awesome. Okay.
And so like it's kind of usually, I'm trying to think of one that's really obvious that would take one. We'll just explore
Some kind of like tree loader or something.
I know there is one like it basically halts execution. Where is Webpack in here? Stop hiding. I was looking at Lodash so I could pull in different parts for tree shaking and chunking. Okay, cool. So where's a good one inside a compilation? Apply plugins. Async series. I think that's good. You see how it passes 1, 2, and then a function at the end. That's going to be your callback
from optimized tree. Oh, from this
optimized tree. So like technically, we could plug into the compilation, and we could try plugging into optimized tree and just see what happens. It should take a callback, and if it doesn't, it'll just fail, I believe.
Right.
So like, let's try that. So here's so to access the compilation, you actually can plug into the compiler to get it. So you do not in this hook, but we can do compiler.plugin compilation, and it returns the compilation. And then you do compilation.plugin. Like, what do we optimize tree? And then let's see what it sends us back. It sent back chunks, modules, and then a callback. So chunks, modules, callback. So put that there. So my favorite part is the debugging process. So like if we wanted to, have you guys ever used the Node debugger for Node processes?
Nope.
Okay, so
I haven't had the pleasure, I guess.
So this is like my best friend when it comes to writing custom plugins or just even debugging Webpack or profiling.
Sure.
You can Node, I think as of, let me just make sure my version. Cool. So you can do Node and then just use the Webpack executable.
Right.
And then pass I think you have to do it before. So -- inspect -- debug break.
There's a typo.
Oh,
in
gosh, I
inspect.
always do that. Inspect. Yep. And then we could pass progress just so we could see things. So what we get back is boom, the URL. And let's see if I can. Yeah, this is so
Oh
cool.
man,
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
just wait.
awesome.
So wait until you see what's next. Okay, so now I think I can
So you
change
can just
screens.
paste it in Chrome.
Yes. So here we go. Let's throw it
Yes.
in a window. Boom. Let's present to everyone. Okay. Can you guys see that?
that's exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. For a moment there, I thought you were gonna debug it in the terminal, like you will debug like Alt C programs, and
no.
like, oh, this is gonna be painful.
No. That's like
Oh, that's so
unacceptable. Yeah. So technically, you can now break in between different parts of Webpack running. Now I can't remember if you write a plugin inside the config if it breaks, but if it stops on the breakpoint, but we'll find out here. Let me look.
Right here we got our console.log hello world running too.
You saw that one. It didn't stop at optimized tree though, so maybe we can do it in the console dot above.
That should have been like a breakpoint, right?
It should we should have stopped at a breakpoint, but we can see if this new one does. I know sometimes I've had issues with this in the past in the kind of like live inline, but we can make it work. Let's see. So yeah, we run it again. The only pain is that in Node 6, you got the same URL every time, so you could just reload. But now you have to actually paste in a new one. That's my biggest gripe. So let's see. I want to just step through and see what files it stops at. Oh, I saw you. There we go. Just in case, sanity check for all the things. Okay. Let's see if it stops. It didn't fail. Well, then guess what we get to do? We get to write the external plugin. So
excellent.
If you don't want to have to do the external or inline, and you actually, let's say you want to publish your plugin, or like just write a custom one, for your in-house usage, you could do that. Oops. Present, that's me inception. Let's try that again. There we go.
That's all the confirmation I needed, though. Realistically, I mean, if you can hook into the optimize commands, I picture a few kind of performance and/or logging experiences that I could definitely integrate within there. Very cool.
Heck yeah! I mean, and that's you'll be blown away, even just in general, on how many different plugins already exist out there too. I mean, it's really awesome. I think the design pattern is it's like blank dash webpack dash plugin. And so you can search on NPM for that. And
Sweet.
For the most part, you'll find almost whatever you're looking for whatever stack, etc. Exports equals.
Cool. And you mentioned earlier that you're working with, I believe you mentioned that Laravel kind of back end. Have you run into anything with Webpack or anything in particular with like Elixir that you would recommend or that you would recommend looking into with that stack?
So like I feel like I should because we do, but I run like all the Webpack setup I've kind of home rolled myself.
Okay.
But like something to look into is for example like using what's a good example? Looking into a multi-page architecture, if you're doing something that relies heavily on SEO and let's say your e-commerce platform, or you don't want to do some sort of JavaScript server-side rendering, then exploring, different ways to kind of treat entry points as separate pages and kind of think about creatively how to, share code across the board. Like the reason why I like this kind of setup is that what we can do essentially, this is kind of what's happening behind the scenes in our plugin, is that we're taking all the chunks and we're creating shared chunks based on the shared code between these three entries. And so then that way,
right,
each page might have 2 or 3 scripts, but the cacheability is huge because it's way it's much more powerful because we're caching all the shared code between these 2 entry points or 3 entry points.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Right.
So let's see. I got that plugin, and all I have to do is, am I missing something? I don't think so. Oh yeah, compiler. Technically, I can just const foo plugin equals require. Yes, and then just do a new one. Now, somebody said I was going over their head a bit. Feel free to ask more questions and elaborate. What was your name again? I think Mike CKS. Don't hesitate. There are no dumb questions. If anything, the configuration is scary as it is. I'll be the first to admit it. New foo plugin, cool.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I like talking about the plugin system, because if you understand the plugins, you can go through any part of the source and customize anything you want. So let's try it again one more time for the win. Well, I should just do build and see if it actually works.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. So for
Nice,
all
the
the
inline stuff going.
For all the marbles, no pressure. Let's see. I'll paste it in there and share the screen. All right, fun. Let's do this. Does it stop? It stops. Oh wait, it stopped there. But I have a good feeling. Yes. There we go. So, like, this is my favorite part is like I'll write an empty plugin that just has debuggers and hooks, because then I can just be like, okay, what's inside of the compiler and how is this represented? Like I'm kind of debug oriented, like breakpoint oriented developer sometimes. But you can see you can swap out your file system at this point. Yeah. You can look at the output path property. You can change things like you can see the file system. Oh, watcher. Can you actually set watchers? This reminds me of something that I was supposed to talk to somebody about in an issue. They wanted to know, could you add extra watchers to non-JavaScript files and trigger a different command when the watcher triggers? And I wasn't 100% sure if that was possible, but yeah. So and then if we get down to the optimize, maybe it'll stop there. It might not.
Oh,
did it? Let's find out. It didn't. Plugin compiler compilation. But yeah, you can hook into essentially almost any part with self. So.
This is such a big deal, at least for me, because my background is always coming from the imperative procedural paradigm. So to me, it's always super important, at least for me, to learn where does the execution start of the whole system. And as I was telling you earlier, I just when I started looking into this at the source, I was completely lost because I knew what the files were doing, but I just didn't know how all of them work together. So now that you actually show how the whole plugin system works, and I can see where the execution starts, now it's easier for me to say I can actually start developing something useful to the community. Now that I know that this is the entry point and this is how it works, this is how it plugins into everything. And I think it's amazing how the architecture of the entire of Webpack, I think it's really well assigned. I like it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, kudos to Tobias Koppers. Cool. I mean, he did a really great job. And oh my gosh, it's already almost 1. I feel bad.
East Coast time.
East Coast time, yeah.
No, I'm in Central time, so it's okay.
Central, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope maybe I should wrap it up. But yeah, so maybe the last thing I can part with myself, and then I'll give you guys if you want to say something or have something to say or questions, whatever. So Webpack options apply. So if there's great files to get started at, so there's Webpack options defaulter, Webpack options apply, The defaulter, as it says, literally is just going to, because the only two properties required are entry point and output, or entry and output. So we do set a huge amount of defaults. It's just that they're very generalist defaults. A lot of people are like, oh, this is too low level and it should do more. And it's like, well, you'd be surprised to know we set a lot of defaults, but maybe not to everybody's like Snowflake application, which, there are a lot out there. So options defaulter is one, because you can kind of see what the default of everything is. And then also, where is it? What am I thinking of? Oh yeah, the bin. So the bin is essentially how you use Webpack's Node API. Because you'll actually see it executed right here. Boom. When you use the Node API, all you're doing is requiring Webpack, like the Node module, and you pass an options object to it, and that literally is the compiler tappable instance. It's a instantiation of it. So when you can kind of manually run it yourself by just doing compiler.run. That is basically where Webpack runs everything, from start to finish. So like that is the beginning of your bin command, but like if you want to write it in Node and not use a configuration file, you can do so just by doing, require Webpack and then do, just pass whatever object. So you could even just be like this, like entry, output, tech plugins, like boom, you just ran Webpack and it takes a function as a callback. So when it's finished and it works, then you can choose how to output stats or do whatever you want. So like the bin command is also super useful, and I always recommend people take a look at it. It's where I started learning. And then Webpack options apply. So like, This is kind of where, I tell people in the most broadest phrase, the Webpack config is just a object that runs through a big ass logic tree and applies a crap ton of single purpose plugins. And that's it.
Right.
That's all it's doing.
In a nutshell.
in a very simple nutshell. So.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess before we sign off, because we've been going for a while, do you guys have any other questions or whatnot?
I have no.
My only. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
No, go ahead. Okay, so I guess my only next question is, now that I understand how a plugin system works and how all of this works together, so what is a good starting point to actually start contributing something to Webpack? Like, what are some of the things that are in the pipeline right now for, like we either need to fix this box or do these few plugins or.
Yeah, that was like the whole point, and I dragged you into this live stream and, all this stuff. But yeah, so like, there's there's so many different paths you can take. And especially now that you understand this core system as a whole. One of the things that like I really want, and I've been really enjoying from the community, and it's been like crazy, has been, if you look here, like look at all these over the past, I've tweeted about it a little bit, but over the past week, we've had 123 pull requests, from a bunch of new people, and you can see they're all refactoring single files, because all of these, for the most part, are just ES5 classes. So the first thing, if you wanted to just get your feet wet, play around with the code, get used to the the PR system, the review system, check out a file, pull down master, create a feature branch, convert one file over to ES6, and publish it. And so like you essentially have the opportunity to learn individual plugins as you're refactoring, and then you can kind of piece it larger together. So like that's the first step. And then, we also have a bunch of different issues under this label called X5 Work Required PR Help Wanted. And it looks like a little multicolor rainbow, but I try to add little different like labels. So like there's easy, medium contributor difficulty, there's hard. And so like things that may be in the future, but we would love to take a PR for it, etc. So if you wanted to try one of these, you
Sweet.
can put in it. You can first ask, like, is anybody taking this? You know, you might see like, you know, a PR or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like somebody did. Oh yeah, he did do that. I think I should. Oh, thanks for this. Closing with 3.5. I should close that. 3.567. So yeah, essentially, you know, you can go through and be like, hey, what would be the best direction for this, and ping me, or you know, any of the other people marked as member of core team that is you know, listed on there.
Right.
And that's just a couple ways. I mean, you can also go to any of our other repos that have not even implemented like our new ESLint file that's in core. So we have enhanced resolve. And so enhanced resolve is essentially the entire resolver tappable instance bundled up into a separate package. There is tappable, which needs ES6 love. There is Webpack sources, which is a code representation of the source code and source mapping. And then loader runner, which is how the actual loaders get run. And then I think loader utils is the last one. Loader utils. And then, oops, one more, watchpack. Watchpack, which is essentially Chokodar wrapped in a kind of Webpacky friendly environment. So there's like all of those, you know, there's all sorts of different stuff that you can do, and there's really no wrong direction. We want the help any way we can take it.
Awesome. So what will be like? What are the from contributors? Because I mean, this is mostly a volunteer-run effort, so a lot of us have like day jobs.
There's no pressure.
Okay.
Yeah, just you know, it's whenever you can tackle it. I mean, so here's one of the things I would say. If there's something that you think may take long term, by all means, there's nothing wrong with it. But like, let's say out of our milestone issues, if you go into issues, milestones, and like 2.2 release, that's going to be final release Webpack 2. Maybe unless you can fix it right away, you know, maybe steer clear, or of those specific ones, jump into a later milestone, something like that.
Right.
So
cool. Well, I don't have any more questions. I'm really grateful for this. So
no problem. It's my pleasure. I mean, it gives me an opportunity to, you know, actually drag some people along with me for streaming on Thursday nights. So it's always good.
Yeah, Sean, I have no more questions. You did a great job at presenting the compilation processes, and I really enjoyed it.
Hey, and we only maybe covered 20% too. So
well, why don't we go ahead and say 17%? Because I have a feeling there's an extra 3 there that we may have missed. But thanks for your time, and I think I'll be looking at tappable. That was a really good takeaway. That I've been, as you were speaking, I've been doing a bit of multitasking and digging into it, and it's looking like ES6 is definitely on the line there. So
well, I'll look forward to some PRs from you guys, and yeah, goodbye everybody who even stuck around till 1 a.m. Central Standard Time to watch, and you know, have a good night.
Awesome. Likewise. Thank you.
Later, guys.